Before you click away from the video, let me say this. Shanks is one of my favorite One Piece characters of all time, and it's not close, okay? But One Piece has a Shanks problem. We all know Shanks to be the Yonko, worth 4 billion berries. We know him as the man who gave Luffy his straw hat, and the man who Luffy will give his straw hat back to by the end of the series. Oda has recently stated that Shanks is as important to the One Piece as Luffy, or at least as important to the story as the One Piece. I'm not sure what that means, but that's incredibly exciting, right? We're getting Garling information, we're getting spoilers, by the way, for this video, but we're getting information on Shamrock, and I think all that stuff is fantastic. The problem, okay, is where it starts to feel a little forced. Let's get the elephant out of the room. You cannot bring up Shanks in the One Piece fandom without bringing up the character Dracul Mihawk, okay? If you don't know, Shanks and Mihawk used to duel. We got this information from Whitebeard when Shanks went to go meet Whitebeard and they ended up clashing. We have no context to these duels other than they were legendary, as Whitebeard himself states. The fandom has taken this statement and completely destroyed the power scaling system of all of One Piece. If you don't know Dracul Mihawk, he is known as the world's strongest swordsman. If you've never read One Piece, I would ask you to think about what that means, okay? If we're going just based off of words, you would imagine that every character in the story who we're going to see with the sword, this character is stronger than. And most people would stop thinking there, okay? The discussion begins when Shanks is involved. Is Shanks a swordsman or is he not a swordsman? Well, Shanks has a sword, so surely that would make him a swordsman, right? Oh boy. What is a swordsman in One Piece? Now, I know what you're thinking, okay? Surely it's someone who wields a sword. Surely it's not someone like Kaido who wields a club, someone like Luffy who uses his fists, Garp who uses his fists, or even Whitebeard who uses a Bicento, which is a glaive, for most of you who don't know. Shanks, he'd probably be a swordsman. I mean, he uses a sword, right? If Shanks uses a sword, then that would mean that he is weaker than the world's strongest swordsman. The problem is when we start to get here. Both the writing and the fandom of this one character have decided to destroy the entire power scaling narrative of the story for this one character, okay? Let's start with the fandom. Shanks, who has a sword, okay, would be weaker than Mihawk, who's the world's strongest swordsman. The thing is Shanks is considered a hockey man. If you have never heard of the term hockey man, it's a man who primarily specializes in using hockey. If you don't know what hockey is in the power scaling system, things are about to get really complicated for you. Hockey lets you do things like see into the future, throw lightning with your attacks, and knock out people who have a weaker will than you. Don't ask me what that means. That's a video for another day. The point is this. People believe Shanks to be a hockey wizard, okay? He can do things like mystical spell you. He can cast lightning. Okay, he can do anything but attack with his sword. He's basically a Naruto character. And the reason for this is because his fans love him so much that he can't be weaker than any other character because he is Luffy's goal, okay? This logic has annihilated the fandom. The word hockey man and what hockey is supposed to be in the series has been scrutinized to no end, okay? To the point that we are getting watered down fights. Spoiler warning. Like the most recent fight with Roxy Zebek and Garp and Roger. Oda has to spell out what these attacks are doing. Hockey's being channeled through the sword. It's the swordsmanship. All because of one character's fandom not wanting to admit that this man is a swordsman. When you start talking about the swordsman in One Piece, no one gets a pass to be called a swordsman if you're talking to someone who is a Shanks fan. Fujitora? No, he's not a swordsman. He uses a sword, but he also has gravity attacks. Big Mom? Well, she uses a sword, but it's infused with the soul. King? The Wildfire? No, King said he wasn't a swordsman himself. He uses a sword-breaking sword. The only person who anyone lets be a swordsman these days is Trafalgar Law, who is primarily a devil fruit user. We haven't seen anything until now, and the things that we have seen have only been used to fuel this agenda, right? It's hard to take what happened in Marineford for a one-for-one of every character's strength because no one was trying seriously. No character, with the exception of Whitebeard potentially, was trying their hardest. Not even Akainu. I mean, the very next arc, we see Akainu destroy an entire island with Aokiji. Two characters there that for all intents and purposes barely used hockey the entire war. Okay? So, when we're talking about Mihawk versus Shanks, it's 10 to 30 times worse because we've seen Mihawk do very little in Marineford, and we have seen Shanks do something very amazing in Wano Kuni. Okay? Since Marineford, we have not seen Mihawk do anything. Okay, not really. A lot of people are saying now that him one-shotting Kid wasn't even a swordsmanship technique, even though Oda has gone through incredible lengths in the story to explain why this is a swordsmanship technique. The only reason they don't want it to be a swordsmanship technique is so that people can't say that Shanks is weaker than Mihawk. It's perfectly fine if he's weaker than Mihawk. It's perfectly fine if he's not weaker than Mihawk. But making up terms like hockey man, making up what a swordsman should be just because you like a character and pushing this agenda onto everyone else in the fandom is the most toxic thing in the entire One Piece fandom. You cannot have an honest conversation with any character for fear of them using certain words. And all of these words relate back to Shanks. Hockey. That will turn into a hockey man. Bam, back to Shanks versus Mihawk so fast. Swordsmanship. Do not talk about Zoro because it relates to swordsmanship, and that relates to Shanks because it relates to Mihawk. I'm not joking. Do not talk about Yonko versus Admirals because they do not want Shanks to be a Yonko, because Admirals, there are a lot of Admiral fans who believe that Shanks is stronger than all of the other Yonko, but that the Yonko are weaker than the Admirals, just not Shanks. Do you see what I'm saying? A lot of people on all sides love this character. I love this character, like I said at the beginning of this video. So they're trying to find a way to annex Shanks from the swordsman conversation without breaking the entire power scaling narrative of One Piece as we know it, right? And I think that that's doing a massive disservice to the story as well as to the fandom. Like I said, I like Shanks a lot. But if you don't know, spoiler warning again, Shanks had the mark of the abyss. Apparently, we see in a earlier chapter, and the implications of this means he was potentially immortal. Okay. In any other manga, in any other anime fandom, I believe this would be amazing. We would love this. We would celebrate this. We would cherish this. Okay. In any other fandom, because Shanks has had this, it has added nothing but pure toxicity to the fandom. Okay. It has added Hockey Man agenda. It has added, did Mihawk beat this man when he was invincible? Like, just setting aside Mihawk for a second, okay? I think that's really cool. But we can't talk about it because we have to focus on how the hockey being channeled through the sword, okay, is the thing that's supposed to stop Emu and this immortality, okay? And to be honest with you, Shanks being a celestial dragon, I don't think anyone cares. I don't think anyone cares. The only people who care are power scalers who want to say that Marineford Shanks did not stop the war at Marineford because he was a celestial dragon. That's it. And that's mostly Akainu fans. And I like Akainu as much as the next guy. But, I mean, let's just face it. I think Shanks is stronger. I do. I'll definitely say this. I don't think that you can use Shanks to upscale your character anymore. Like, and I don't think that you can do it because no one wants to agree on what Shanks is. If Shanks isn't a swordsman, Mihawk can and cannot at the same time be stronger. This is Schrodinger's power scaling, right? If Blackbeard did or didn't scar yes or no immortality Shanks, then he is or isn't a hockey man, stronger, weaker Blackbeard. What? What, bro? Bro, look at this character. Look at this man who can use hockey and a sword. Like every other person with a sword in this story. And that's it. Maybe he's got more, he's got immortality. Cool, bro. Maybe he even has a devil fruit that lets him swim. Cool, bro. You wouldn't compare Kaido or Whitebeard to the next man, so I don't see why we're doing it for Shanks. The problem with Shanks is that most people see him as a mentor character. If you've watched Naruto, massive spoiler alert incoming for a character named Jiraiya. He is the mentor of Naruto who begins to teach him his first real ninjutsu. He dies. Okay, he's a legendary Sannin. He's a very strong character. He's not as strong as many other characters, especially by the end of the series. Okay, a lot of people view Shanks as that mentor character and believe he will pass away at some point. And logically, this will be the reason why Luffy cannot give him back the Straw Hat, potentially to Blackbeard. We're not sure. Again, that's for another video for another day. However, no matter what you speculate, most people, even Shanks fans, believe that he will pass away at some point within the story. Now, I personally don't want to see that happen. I want to see them settle their duel after Zoro beats Mihawk. That would be my ideal conclusion for those two characters. Okay, maybe they never have a conclusion to the end of their duel, but Zoro is definitively stronger, right? A nice, happy conclusion like that, or maybe he does pass away. But whatever it is, I hope that it's not altered for the sake of the fandom.